Let's start in reverse order. So Munster losing by 5 points to Sandy Park yesterday, and I think they take that actually.
Yeah, no, completely. I think, especially the way the game went, I think you look at that first half and Exeter butchered a hell of a lot of scores out there. They'll be looking at that going, how are we only 5 points ahead going back to Thomond? Munster will certainly take that going back to a packed Thomond Europe. It's another Munster European kind of get together in terms of they just kind of frustrated Exeter a little bit. A lot of errors in that first half especially. But I think a couple of magical things like Conor Murray's tackle with Chris Farrell, Keith Earl's tackle, John Hodnett's turnover. These moments are huge moments in Europe especially. Just galvanised Munster, and again they should have been done and dusted. And they weren't. They just kept on in there. Another massive performance from Munster. So they'll certainly take 5 points. And as I said, Exeter scratching their head going, how are we? They should be home and hosed, going into this return tie. It
was a strange one in that, as you say, they should have been out of sight. And then Munster had 2 extra players when Exeter had 2 in the bin, and maybe they didn't capitalise enough in that period.
No, I don't think they did. 13 men, we saw in one of the other games when they were down to 14 how much of a difference it can make. So 13, if you're smart, if you don't get too excited, try and get the ball too wide too early, you can expose the space and you can exploit them. Munster didn't do that, which is maybe something to look at further down the line if they get through this tie, that they're going to have to, against stronger teams, they're going to have to certainly score once against 15, never mind 13, but against 15. So that'll be an area of concern, but I'm sure they'll still be happy with the result given how many mistakes Exeter made and how many last ditch attempts Munster kept them in with.
Yeah, it was a bit of a rearguard action. Can they get more on the front foot, a bit more positive, a bit more cohesive within, say, we're talking 7 days?
Well, that's the question. Also, you got to look at the personnel changes. Lot of last minute ins and outs all week, and even last minute, like just the 2 guys, Zebo pulled out and Dermot Barron pulled out as well, day of the game. So that's going to change, I think, coming into this week. Hopefully Munster will have some players back, some bigger players back, which will add to that cohesiveness that you're talking about, who would have trained all week. So they'll go into this week buoyed by the fact that they didn't have their strongest squad, only 5 points, and they have that Thomond Park crowd behind them.
Andy Farrell was there at Sandy Park. Anybody he would have noticed positively?
Very impressed with John Hodnett. Thought he was super at the breakdown. He had some crucial turnovers, especially on their own line. For such a young guy, he's really stepped up this season and come to the forefront. And then to see the old dog and Keith Earls just producing such a tackle to keep Munster in it, and these are the small things. Don't know if Andy Farrell will be overly analysing it too much in terms of who's going to bring to New Zealand. I think he'll be looking more so at these young guys. It's great that Munster are bringing through the young guys. So obviously missing a few players, these younger players, your Ben Healy's, like Gavin Coombs, obviously missing this one unfortunately, but these type of players coming through, he'll have an eye on them, but bringing them to New Zealand in the summer tour.
Would you be a little bit worried in that Munster have to be strong, I think, for Irish rugby? They have to be the brand that they were and still are, but possibly not on the pitch, because there seems to be a listlessness and a bit of a drift with Munster. And I know the coach is doing everything professionally, but he's still a lame duck coach. He's still leaving. And to me, when you're not filling Thomond Park for the Leinster game, that's a red flag.
Yeah, look, it's a concern. I think as well, the whole doubt of who's coming in and who the coach is going to be, and there's still no clarity on that. Obviously an extremely strange situation when Van Graham, having signed a contract, goes to Bath, and everyone's scratching their heads now, and players are like, what do we do for the rest of the year? Obviously they want to produce and try and win in Europe and get some silverware, but the coach is going, so it's a strange one for those guys. I think Munster need to be clear in the next couple of weeks. If it's got to be done sooner. They got to name the coach pretty soon.
Anybody you'd like to see do it? Roundtree or?
Well, look, he seems to be the favourite at the moment. I haven't heard too much, to be honest. I think it was down to two horse race. So Roundtree seems to. Well, he's interviewed I think 4 or 5 weeks ago now. So it's. I think he'll
bigger though than him, isn't it? It's bigger than Roundtree. It's a bigger issue.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there is a bigger issue. Yeah, and in terms of that identity as well, I'd be glad that they brought in, say, someone who's kind of in there already in the system, who knows Munster, or even someone, if it's going to be Roundtree and you make him the head coach, you bring in someone underneath as well, be it a Mike Prendergast or someone who's got that Munster
DNA, as it were.
Exactly, running through him, yeah, exactly. And you need that, I think, to kick forward, because you mentioned it there, you're not selling out of Munster, Leinster.
But it's apathy. Apathy is the worst thing in sport. And for Munster, apathy?
I know, it is. It's so frustrating, I suppose, when you see it. That should be a sellout crowd. That's an Ireland trial, full of internationals. It's not as if Leinster sent down a half-cut team, a half-cocked team. You know, it's a strong team. There's a lot of Irish internationals. Yeah, there's a few on the bench as well, but Leinster are just so much better at the moment in a lot of what they do. It's not the comparison we used to have before, but we do need, for Irish rugby, we need Munster firing and firing on all cylinders. I do think that some of these younger guys coming through are pushing, and they'll get that exposure.
Who are they?
Well, like I mentioned, Hodnett, you've Clondellin, you've Thomas Ahern, Gavin Coombs already, Craig Casey, you've Shane Daly. You know, there's these young guys, Joss Wycherley, these young guys are playing and they need to be exposed to this level of rugby. And it's only going to be good for Munster rugby. And, you know, people down there are talking, we need to have our local guys. And yeah, I completely agree with that. And they have some good West Cork lads coming through as well. But they just need to promote these lads, give them game time. I think Thomas Ahern especially, he had a chance last year to get 10, 12 games under his belt, and then all of a sudden he comes into this year and he's 25 games under his belt. Now he's still only in single figures, I think, if not just 10, you know, and Munster should be a further ahead of where they are, and they're still kind of playing the South African lads or different lads or older guys. It's a great chance for these younger guys to get exposure, for then the new coach to come in and kick on.
Look, it's a different game from 20 years ago, but you wouldn't have had legends of the likes of Rog and Peter Stringer and Anthony Foley and Quinney and Claw and Mick Golyev without them getting the chance and being able to stake their claim for a place in the team and then make an impact once they got that chance and got the belief.
Yeah, exactly. And it's exactly that. It's belief, and it's that chance, and it's consistency as well of performance, rather than here's your one chance, we make 15 changes, in you go, and then against Zebra, against the Treviso, you know, in you go for this, and then you're gone the next week. They've got to be given a chance to prove themselves, to get some form, and especially when it comes to those big games, they have to be in the conversation. I think they're showing now by being played, be it through injury or whatever, but they're taking their opportunities now. And that can only be good, one, good for Irish rugby, and two, great for Munster rugby.
Joey Carberry and Peter O'Mahony should be back for the return game next week. It's leadership, I think, is just as important now as tactics. Look, they got to cut down on the mistakes, give away less penalties. Hopefully home advantage will help, but also having those key figures, those Ireland internationals there, will be a settler.
Yeah, and I think it's half a job done, albeit behind in the scoreboard. I think, as mentioned at the start, you take that. I think you bring back some experience, some of those key, and in key positions, you bring back a Joey who understands the game a hell of a lot, and you bring back a Peter O'Mahony who's in the coalface, and he'll understand what to do, make the right calls, just be level-headed. He's been in a situation, he's played internationals, he's been in these European games, and this is when you need leaders to stand up, and I expect him to do it. I really do expect him to turn it around this weekend.
I'd be interested to hear from Munster fans on 53106 about your kind of view of the state of the nation in the province, because it's such an iconic brand and club and province, and you want Munster. I felt just, James, the last 10 years since they've been winning a trophy, like they just peter out. They just peter out every season. Like even in the league final against Leinster last year, there was a lot of build up to it, and you know that Munster wanted it more, and then they just got beat.
Yeah, and look, and it's frustrating when you're watching it, and you expect. I think it's the expectation that the Munster crowd have, and the Munster support have, and the Munster players have, and they know it's kind of this noose around the neck of, when I was there, I lost three, if not three semi-finals, and it's getting close, but not close enough. And it's you've got to look at kind of grassroots as well, and they don't have the same resources, they don't have the same player base as Leinster do. They have to be smarter in how they bring players through. So it's across the board, and I do think they're getting it right a little bit slower than, say, your Leinster, but they're getting it right. But it's going to take a couple of years for some of these players to come through. Munster want success now, which is completely entitled to, but I think it's going to be a couple of years before these players come through and eventually kind of catch up, so that every year they're on a level playing field with Leinster.
What has made Leinster the machine they are? Is it the schools? Is it?
that helps a hell of a lot. You know, you have the private schools which produce quality players, the coaching, the amount of numbers that they have coaching at schools level, and the quality of coaching they're getting as well. I guess they're lucky that they have the numbers that they do. And then they have the pick of the players then, so you get to choose the cream, and you can see why other provinces come in and look at trying to get some of their younger guys who Leinster mightn't take on. Or like you look at a Keane Prendergast, for example, at Connacht, who's been shooting the lights out, but didn't make Leinster's academy, and then went to Connacht, got an opportunity, and now look at him, he's been in an Irish squad. So I think there's these players that sometimes slip through the net at Leinster, that only Munster or Connacht would only give their left arm to have, you know. Sometimes I think the school system in Munster, you've only got a couple of schools that are coming through. You can't rely on the private schools. They have to rely on the youth. They have to rely on not just Cork and Limerick. They're going to have to go to Kerry, get some more JJ Hannahans, you know, and kick into different provinces, more Tipperary lads, just spread it around, and just they've got to be identifying the right players nice and early.
Yeah, obviously with hurling as well now, a bigger deal in Limerick City as well. That's another factor. Ulster yesterday, this was brilliant stuff. In a way, you'd kind of wish it was only one leg.
Yeah, you would, you know, but then you would have been nervous in that last play of the game. Certainly would have been one leg, and I think Ulster obviously it's going to be a different game. I think Ulster did well. I think they'd be disappointed in letting them get in for that last score. Toulouse looked so dangerous, even with 14 men, so dangerous. The counter-rucking put Ulster under a hell of a lot of pressure. I think Ulster got caught up initially in trying to play the game that Toulouse are trying to play, trying to get that loose offloads, not the way you'd normally expect Ulster to play, especially given a European tie, especially given over two legs. I just think that when they were smarter, when they played phases, when they controlled the ball, they looked a lot more dangerous than when they just tried to be loose and offload the ball. But you've someone like Robert Baloucoune, who was immense yesterday, gets his hat-trick, he can score from anywhere. Like, he's a phenomenal athlete. He's a bit of a freak. And
have you seen anybody quicker of late?
No, just an open play like that, no, just so dangerous. Like, obviously in the sevens perspective, you've seen Jordan Conroy and how he is so fast and so quick, but 15s is so much less space. But Robert Baloucoune just is that phenomenal athlete. If you can stay fit, you'll have him straight away in that Irish national side.
For New Zealand?
Yeah, 100%. He's head and shoulders above lads at the moment, you know, in that wing position. He's just got that X factor, that kind of Simon Zebo where he can do something for nothing, and you need those athletes. And like in Ireland, we don't normally produce them, so to have someone like him can be massive. So
what's your take on next week then in Belfast? Because a lot of it is about Toulouse's appetite, and I always find in these situations. I know, and it's been like that for years, and you've got to frustrate the French, and you know, I think if they just hadn't let them in for that score at the end, I think it's going to be a lot tighter. If they hadn't let them in, I would have said Ulster home and host. But they got that last try, and it's just given them a little bit of a glimmer. If they can score first in Ravenhill, keep the crowd quiet, could be sweaty palms then for the Ulster players and supporters. So you're 100% right. What Toulouse side turns up, and what's the conditions going to be like again? If it's going to be rain, Saturday night, yeah. Connacht were always up against it on Friday, but they showed up. They did everything they could. I felt watching that. Yeah, they fronted up, and you always expect. I don't mean that in a bad way. Considering how they played the week before, I think it was a good step in that direction. I felt they were extremely physical at Leinster, which you'd expect. I just think Leinster will have that freshness that they'll be able to rotate their squad a little bit more, while Ulster Connacht will have to roll out the kind of same bodies again. And it's attritional. There'll be sore bodies. They mightn't be able to make as many changes. Aviva is going to be a different atmosphere, different pitch. You know, it's not that tight pitch that you have in Connacht, and you expect that from Connacht, you know. But they did well, I think, to get the 5, to be within 5 again, and it sets it up nicely, to be honest. You know, I'm sure the Leinster mightn't say it, but I'm sure more bums on seats in the Aviva at the weekend rather than the tie home and hose. Who knows? Expect Leinster though to come through. I think they've way too much power, way too much nous as well. Andy Friend's doing a great job there, isn't he? Super, absolutely super. The way they've played, they've a super brand of rugby. He's
been very smart in his recruitment as well. I think next year as well, even stronger again. Every year, the massive problem you have with Connacht is turnover of players. Every year they may lose 10 to 12 players. So you don't get that consistency. Someone comes in, someone plays well, and they go back to, say, a province where they're from, or they started their careers. Well, if they can keep those players there, those core players, and bring in a bit more quality, such as your Porch, your Mac Hansen, who's been superb this year. I think they've been shrewd in their recruitment next year. Adam Byrne's been a great one. Josh Murphy, I think, is going to be huge. Peter Downey. These players will come in and add so much experience just to help them get over that line of finishing out games, of that Leinster nous of knowing how to win. Okay, obviously Connacht fans don't want to wait till next year, but I just think that they are going in the right direction, and Andy Friend's done a super job.
I think maybe this was good for Leinster because it'll sharpen them a bit, and I think that since Bilbao, since they won the Champions Cup and they looked like they were going to be the dominant side, they've been caught cold a couple of times, as Saracens and La Rochelle. Maybe Leinster need these type of matches before they go into the Clermont or Leicester game.
Yeah, I think so. I think it seems to be that kind of power, that power game that they seem to lose, especially when they played against Saracens.
Now, have they sorted that? Do we know?
For next year, well, Jenkins has come up, I suppose, for next season, but I still think they need that big kind of second row six, that Rocky Elsom type player. And I think Joe McCarthy, a young guy's come through who's got size. It's size, you know, when you get to that level, it's about size. You saw the Toulouse pack, Rory Arnold, 6'10". You're losing Devon Toner, Rory Arnold carrying the ball, Meffalau in the second row as well. The size of these guys coming at you, there's 5 or 6 of them in that Toulouse pack, and it's going to make inroads. And La Rochelle, same thing. It's power. It's a power game that Leinster trying to play when you get to those semi-finals, finals, which actually get you over the line. So I think the way Connacht played, it's physical, it's tough, it's going to be similar. Connacht will try and make it similar, Leinster will try and make it more expansive, but I think when you do come down to semi-finals, finals, it's a power game.
Sean O'Brien and Dan Levy both retired this week. So Dan Levy had to retire immediately because of injury, serious knee injury, and difficult for him. And you know, it's disappointing, and it's disappointing for us to learn the news. And then Sean O'Brien announced he was going to retire this year after a career which involved over 50 caps for Ireland, and then the tour of the Lions, and now he's been at London Irish. So 2 great servants for Irish rugby. Just start with Dan.
Yeah, look, what can you say about Dan Levy? And like, it's always so disappointing when someone has to retire due to injury, but something as bad an injury as this, you know, he did so well to come back from it. He did so well in that rehab to get back. If you look at the form he has or had in 2018, he was probably the best player in Europe, if not the world at the time. And you look at him at that stage and you would have said, he's 24, this guy's going to be Ireland's back row for the next 10 years. And just to have a career cut short, he's still won a hell of a lot of things. It's going to be, normally you say he's going to be tough replaced. Leinster do have plenty of back rowers, but he's had an unbelievable career in what he's done in such a young age. But he'll be sorely missed, and to have someone retire at such a young age, it's disappointing for Irish rugby, disappointing for him. He's a smart lad. I'm sure he's got...
Are there support structures for people who retire early?
There are, yeah. No, there certainly are. And these guys, especially the kind of the top percent, will be able to invest in different things. Dan's smart as well. He would have looked at doing different things during his playing career outside of rugby. He would have invested in different businesses and startups and that sort of thing. So he'll have plenty to get his teeth into. Not everyone's going to be as organised as him, say, but he certainly is. So yeah, look, you just hope he can maybe take a break from the game for a while and come back in some capacity, be it coaching or something like that. But you wouldn't want to lose someone like that to go off on their own. Yeah, it's terribly disappointing to see someone finish like that.
And Sean, like, he's had a glittering career, the Tullow Tank, obviously a bit out of sight at the moment because he's in London, but I just remember against New Zealand, was it for the Lions, like, he was just immense. Oh,
exactly the word. Colossal. You know, he's one of these players where the Tullow Tank, everything you talk about him, he's so dangerous in what he did. He was so good in New Zealand. He was such a great career. Different to Dan, and that,
so the same position,
but different to Dan, that he got to fulfill his career, you know. And look, he's had bad injuries as well, and he's had the hip done, which is a pretty severe injury to have and to come back from. So again, credit to him for being able to come back from that. But he's gone over to London. out of sight, out of mind a little bit, especially in Ireland. But he's tipped away over there. Maybe not done as much as he'd liked, or been as successful as he liked over there, but what a hell of a career, you know. And he can, in years to come, speak to his grandkids and show all the medals he has, and he'll have done extremely well, I'm sure. He released a statement saying he's certainly going to stay in the game, which is great, because you don't want to lose these guys who know what it takes to win, who've been at the top level, and you want them coming back and speaking to the younger generation and telling them what it takes to win, what it takes to kick on. So 2 guys who are gone, but hopefully we'll put more back into the
that's
game.
it. Like if Sean O'Brien walked into any school in Carlow or anywhere, you know, just to talk about his career, and, you know, people would be lapping it up in the classroom.
Everyone knows who he is. Everyone knows what he's done, and he can certainly hold court, and he's a great lad, and I'm sure he'll be a success no matter what he does.
So next week, you think Munster are going to do it, Leinster are going to do it, and Ulster?
Yeah, no, I just think the home factor of Ravenhill will get them over the line. I'm sure it's going to be a tough one, even though they're the ones who are leading going into this tie. I just think it'll be a little bit tougher than I think, again, depending on which French side turns up, but I expect Ulster to do it.
And anybody outside of the Irish provinces that, you know, are the favourites, you think? Racing had a good win yesterday.
Racing, great win over Stade. Yeah. I think they'll win. That side, obviously, La Rochelle still so dangerous, I think.
Rogers, La Rochelle.
Rogers,
like
La Rochelle.
Lampard's, Everton and Stephen Gerrard's Aston Villa.
Which one is La Rochelle then? Is
Rogers, La Rochelle.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no, it'll be. I do think that Rog will be extremely dangerous, especially if they come up against an Irish province. I think if Ulster and Munster win, they face each other, so they've a bit to get through before that. But I think the power sides will be ones to watch.
And just before we finish, we share both something in common. James Downey, we're both Spurs fans. I can't believe what's happened. It's just, I woke up this morning, it was a bright day, it was a sunny day.
It's been a bright couple of weeks. It's great to see Spurs hopefully haven't turned that corner, and Conte seems to be working his magic, and long may it last. You know, it's Son's back, Kane just needs to score, and we'll be happy days.
Yeah, one day we might win a trophy, you know.
I'll take Champions League.
All right, James, thanks so much.